Okay. And it looks like we have one other person dialed in.
Pastor Guy, is that
I'm not
you?
sure who that is. Yeah, that's me.
Okay, he's gonna do our invocation. I'm gonna make sure the sound's working in the other room and I'll be right back. I'm gonna stop.
I didn't get one of those.
This is the original. I want to share. I think it's declared. It's the first I've seen it.
It'd be a declaratory.
Guess I'll do it on behalf of EDC. Guess you paid. I didn't see it on the agenda.
Is that innovation performance?
Yes.
You ready?
Ready.
Okay. I'd like to welcome
You
you.
can let me know when you start the YouTube channel. Okay.
Is the YouTube channel on? It should be on, Jewel.
Got it.
You see it?
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna start then. So I'd like to welcome you to the Tuesday, April 21st, Mooresville Town Council meeting. We will do our Pledge of Allegiance, and then Pastor Guy Lancor of First Baptist Church, Mooresville, will do our invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You ready, sir?
Yes, sir.
Sure. Okay. Let's pray. Almighty God, we thank you for your providential grace and watch care over our town in these trying times, especially over these last few weeks. We are thankful that you have protected us in ways that we have seen, in ways that we have not seen. And we ask that you would continue to do so. God, we pray for those in our town who are unemployed or underemployed, for our businesses which struggle with this current situation, and we pray that you would provide for them. We also ask for your care over our medical workers, the emergency workers who are providing for us in such a gracious and good way. Protect us, O God, as a town. We pray for these servants who are your servants governing over our community. Give them wisdom and understanding as they wrestle with difficult issues and how to best respond to them. We thank you for their service, and we commit them to you, and commit our town to your gracious care. In Jesus' name, amen.
I will now call the meeting to order. The meeting's in order. Could we do a roll call of who is in attendance tonight?
Let me start.
Sure.
Tom Worthen, Town Hall.
Dustin Stanley, Town Hall.
Shane Williams is present in the town hall.
Jessica Hester, President via phone.
Thank you.
Jessica, President via phone.
Thank you. There is a quorum. And then also on the line we have Attorney Jewel Lee and Attorney, is Adam Sturwald on the line?
Yes, I'm here, Shane.
And who else is on the line?
Yes, Elliott, Van Engineering.
Okay, and anybody else?
Scott Miller with Baker Tilly.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay. So we'll move on to the first item on the agenda, which would be the April 7th, 2020 approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Tom Wortham makes the motion. Do I have a second?
Stanley will second.
Councilman Stanley seconds. We'll do a roll call vote. Dustin Stanley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dustin Stanley votes aye. Tom Wortham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Tom Wortham votes aye. Jeff Cook, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jeff Cook votes aye. Jessica Hester, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jessica Hester votes aye. And Shane Williams votes aye. The motion passes. The next item on the agenda would be the special meeting minutes from April 14th, 2020. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Councilman Wortham makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I think Jessica won that one. Councilwoman Hester seconds the motion. We'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Stanley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Stanley votes aye. Councilman Wortham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Wortham votes aye. Councilman Cook, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Cook votes aye. Councilwoman Hester, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye. And Shane Williams votes aye. The motion passes.
Hey, Shane.
Yes.
Jim, so we don't fight this all meeting. Dustin and Tom, you're gonna have to find a microphone.
Okay. Can you pull it closer to yourself?
Does that help any, Jeff?
You're a long way away.
I don't know if we need to. Can he call in with his phone and put it here? Or would that be too much back noise?
He could try it, but sure, you can try it. I don't know what it'll do, but
Jeff, we're going to work around this one way or another. I'm sorry.
Man, this is our third meeting. We should have had it down by now.
Can you call in, or is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah. I'm gonna try to do that.
they're gonna call in with a second phone, Jeff, and see if it works better.
Just so long as it doesn't start scrolling back.
That's what I'm worried about. Let's see what it does.
The one meeting that we did, all of them started doing that, they said.
Test.
Okay, so that's the reverse that I was concerned about.
Yeah.
We have to stop.
If you could do this, take it off of the speakerphone, but I'm hoping the microphone will still pick you guys up, so it's not going to be displaying or putting the audio out there.
Yeah.
So if Tom and Dustin can speak with that not on the speakerphone.
Is that off speaker?
It's off speaker.
Is it off speaker?
Yep.
Jeff, can you hear?
Yeah.
Too much.
It ain't gonna work.
We'll just have to move down here. Look. Jeff, we're going to get around this. We're going to move everything a little closer. Sorry. You just want to go on and we'll just make sure that we get
Okay. Jeff, can you hear me okay from this distance?
Yes, I can.
Okay. We're going to move on to the next item of the agenda, which is unfinished business. And this is the sewer rate ordinance, and we'll open the public hearing. We have two signed in. Jewel, do you want to start with the letters or with the people who have come to the meeting?
I would begin with the individuals who are in attendance, allow them to speak, and upon them providing their testimony to the council, I'll redo those that were received through the email inbox that was set up.
Okay, so what we did for this is we set an email box up through the public notice that was sent out, and we posted it on the town website, the town Facebook page. It's been in the paper, it's been on the meeting room door, it's also been advertised in social media, mine being that, mine included. So what we're going to do is we're going to allow people to come up and speak, and you'll come to this microphone, and then we will wipe the microphone off with the Clorox wipes in between speakers, so that you allow time for that to happen. We also have masks in the meeting room if anyone would like a mask, and we also have hand sanitizer located in the back corner there, and there's some in other areas of the government center as well. Let's, we're gonna need to move the phone over there. Actually, it's gonna be this microphone, yeah. And we may need to move the phone closer, I'm not sure. Okay, so, we can start with the list and then go on to other audience members. So Mr. John Earhart, 5485 East Commons Drive here in Mooresville. Hi, John.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. By the way, Jewel, I sent in an email earlier this afternoon explaining the concerns that we have at Lakeside Commons subdivision, which is off of Hadley Road in an unincorporated area of Mooresville. So you probably have that.
Thank you.
But our concern is with the substantial sewer rate increase, which we totally understand periodically that has to be done. I know there's a lot of things go into that with the expansion of NICEPAC. But with that being said, we have Class A irrigation systems throughout our subdivision that when we purchase a home, that's included in our property through no choice of our own in the purchase of that irrigation system. And that we bought it in the price of building the home. So upon having that, it only makes sense that we want to use it. And the sewer rate is based on our water usage through our water supplier is Hill Water Corporation, so it's all factored into that. I was here in October and made that presentation, as I had a couple other times over the years, but it seemed to us that there should be some resolution to this without having to put additional meters in. And I know as I've learned, I mean, I know that the water utility is not owned by the city of Mooresville, but with this sewer rate increase, there's going to be many people in my subdivision that will not turn their irrigation systems on. They will not be able to afford the additional water. And then with that added non-tax deductible sewer payment that we're making with no value received, it's just going to be astronomical to some of our residents that are on very fixed incomes. We're in 1- and 2-person households, and it's an empty nester subdivision. So that was my concern as other residents and representing Lakeside Commons. And it seemed like there should be some resolution based on other communities, but maybe we're unique and that's impossible, but that was my concern in looking at the proposed rate increase was just, in our case, we could calculate it being 40 to 45% or more, so that's substantial to fixed income folks, so that was my concern.
John, do you want your email read as well, since he has it?
It's up to you.
Is there anything, any, what's that, Joel?
So Council President Williams, his email is very similar to what he's just testified to. And I would leave it to Mr. Earhart if you want to read it to the record. I'm happy to do that. If you would give your testimony that you just provided suffices, then, we won't.
I guess since I went to the trouble to put it in, I would like to have it submitted as my testimony as well.
Got it. So I will read this in from Mr. Earhart, Mooresville Town Council. I know that hearings regarding sewer rates which must be evaluated in a timely fashion, but I'm writing regarding our sewer ordinance. I'm a resident of Lakeside Townhomes on Hadley Road, which is a 142 lot empty nester division started in 2003. It is currently about 2/3 built out. When you have a home built here, the developer includes, among other things, a Class A irrigation system, and the package had no choice but the new homeowner. So since 2003, the subdivision has been subsidizing the Mooresville sewer treatment plant during the summer when the irrigation systems are in operation, since there's never been a summer sewer adjustment program offered by the town of Mooresville. When we presented our request last October to the council, they indicated that they would research the issue and let us know what relief might be offered. Then in December, when I talked with Mr. Warden, he indicated that they were in the process of doing the analysis. It is now April, when the irrigation systems are being turned on for this summer season of use. Since we purchased our water from Hill Water Corporation, our sewer bill is calculated using overall water usage. However, the water that is used on our lawns during the summer never reaches the sewer treatment plant. We are years behind in being offered a summer rate adjustment, but since we are looking at a substantial sewer rate increase, this is only going to make our situation worse without an adjustment. We are all one and two person households, which makes our sewer bill very consistent. It would only be fair to charge us the average of our wintertime sewer bills during the summer. It has been calculated that this subdivision has subsidized the Mooresville treatment plant since 2003, somewhere in the area of $150,000 plus. This is nothing more than a non-taxable contribution to the treatment plant for which no benefit was received by the residents of Lakeside Commons. We request that a summer sewer adjustment program be addressed immediately along with the implementation this spring. Thank you, John Earhart, 5485 East Commons Drive, Mooresville, Indiana, 46158.
Thank you, Jewel.
Yeah, and if I can just raise one issue, Mr. Earhart, prior to you leaving the microphone. I understand your concerns here. The sewer rate ordinance that has been proposed that is being considered during this hearing will not take effect for rates, so no increased rates will be hit to the end user until February of 2021. And so this summer, there will not be an impact on those rates. So I just want to make sure that you understood that.
I do understand that, but there's already an impact to us on the current rates that we're facing now. So yes, I understand that wasn't to be implemented until next February, but we still have the same issue.
Comments? Okay.
Move this over if that's all right. Thanks, John. John's absolutely right. They brought this to us back in October. That's when we had started this whole process. We had done a study on our south side system and had proposed improvements and upgrades, and that's when John came with a petition and I would say probably 99% of the residents signed in there. And as a council, since we don't know all the legalities of what we can and can't do, we count on legal counsel for that. And when we in October, when we said we want to move forward, we had the rate study, we wanted to move forward to make sure that it was perfect. We wanted to address this in some manner. Now, Adam, I think you helped me out, or we've talked about this, and I know we've spent hours on it as far as trying to get to a resolution, and you had explained how calculating this back and forth and then just trying to say, okay, just households with Class A water systems. I had even asked, could we put a date on systems installed prior to get the builder to start doing them in a manner that had 2 meters on them. We've talked at great length on this, and you had all the reasons why we couldn't. Now, at that point in time, I did ask, could the rate be implemented and then adjustments be made after the fact, or amendments to the ordinance to allow for this once we figured out a way to do it. I also had planned on talking to Kevin Smith from Hill Water, who had previously said that they could put a second meter in, give us 2 meter readings, and tell us A went through the house, B went into or A went in, but B was subtracted out and went out into the yard. That would give us a way to A minus B equals C and bill upon C. But John was explaining to me tonight that, did Kevin tell you it was $600, or did
The meter is $400 and some change, I don't know, between $400 and $450. And then the installation bill would be somewhere between $100 and $150.
to 6?
And then he wants to charge $5 a month to handle meter B.
Just the reading part of it.
Reading part, and that would be a 12-month. You can't turn it on and off, so it's it would be $5 a month for 12 months a year, $60 on top.
Okay. So I guess my question is, again, for whoever's here from Baker Tilly and also Adam, what is an option around this? Because that's what the council had originally said is, what can we do differently?
outstanding bonds that will be issued to fund this project. And, this type of program, what that means, if we're going to offer a break for some customers, that means rates in general are going to have to likely or potentially go up more than what they already are to cover that difference, because the utility has a certain amount of money that has to be recovered on an annual basis to operate the system, and somebody's got to pay that. And it's just a matter of how we split that up and allocate the responsibility for that payment.
But what you said, it's tough to segregate it, and we weren't. I don't think our concern was segregating one neighborhood. I think it was maybe segregating residential use only, not industrial use. And I know that you brought up questions.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm done. That's just the thing that you brought into play in a previous conversation. That okay, what if the the local factory decides that they want to irrigate their system, and we were just more concerned on the residential side. And the other thing, and I know that I don't want it to sound like it's a fire that we have to put out tonight, but this was a question that was posed on the old rates also. So I mean, I'd like to kind of look at something, implementing it sooner than this, but I kind of thought, hey, I found a way around it. I was going to go back to Kevin at Hill Water and just ask, okay, what would it take to put these in here? At no point in time did anyone mention, when I spoke to him earlier, that it was $600 and $5 a month just to get a meter reading off of it. I mean, I assume that meter reading is going to be zero when you're not using it. I don't know why they would have to charge for that, but again, there's rules that I'm not aware of.
Well, I know everybody likes our money, and when you say that somebody's going to have to cover if we're granted some kind of a benefit that we're not currently receiving because we're paying these additional dollars, we've been paying them for a long time, and it's only fair that it seems to us that we only pay for what we use in the way of the water treatment plant, and we continually are paying additional at the old rates, new rates, whatever sewer rates you want to talk about. We're continuing to subsidize the treatment plant, and that's the bottom line.
But John, I do want to acknowledge that there is a way around this. Everyone that has American Water, Indiana American, on their water systems, they make them put in 2 meters. So there is a way around it.
Okay.
A little bit. I mean, I don't want to blast one guy and not give credit on the other. So
Yeah, I just thought that we talked somewhat in the past about perhaps a module that was in the current software that's used for the town, that there's a way that we could average the water time usage of our residents, and if there's other residents of other subdivisions that have similar systems or whatever, which there are, that I'm aware of, that they have smaller lawns than we have, so I mean, it's not quite the impact, but still it's a fairness issue. So there are other subdivisions in town besides Lakeside Commons.
This is Scott with Baker Tilly again. Councilman Moore, that I agree with your comment that the best way to address this issue is to have a separate meter for outside irrigation use. That's the foolproof way of separating out that water flow and not being charged for it on the wastewater system. And I'll say this is an issue that utilities across the state struggle with, and I'll share with you. I have an irrigation system at my house, and I don't get a break for that water either. I pay for all of that water. And I would say that the trend that I've seen over the past few years is to move away from these types of credits. That being said, as I said just a minute ago, there are potentially ways to address this. It just has to be done so that it's applicable to all of the customers of the system in a fair and legal manner. So, like I said before, I think council and discuss options for what we might be able to do to address this concern.
Okay, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
I have a couple questions about this. This is Shane Williams. What would be the earliest do you think we could address this? Like month-wise, would it be June?
I think that somewhat depends on how you go, how you want to go about it. One method, and I think it was mentioned just a minute ago, one method of addressing this issue is to replace summer usage, summer water usage, or summer sewer bills for customers with winter bills, assuming that a winter average isn't going to have any irrigation, usually, as you would expect in Indiana. That requires that to figure out what that dollar impact is, however, is going to require some additional analysis on our part. I'm looking at what we have right now. I think we probably have what we need to be able to do that already in-house. So it shouldn't, it shouldn't be months and months of additional work. But I think first of all, we need to have a discussion about, how widespread do you make that policy, and is that the policy that you want to go with, or do you want to do something else? So yes, I guess to get back to the timing question, depending on what options we look at, yes, we could have something in the June timeframe if that's how we want to proceed.
Okay. And this is for the treasurer, if she's got the information here. We have a module that can handle this situation already, correct?
That is correct. There's two options in the billing system. One is that we can bill their summer usage based upon one particular month of the 6 months of the what they consider the winter period, or they can do an average of the 6-month period. And with this being a snowbird neighborhood, it's going to be very hard coming up with what algorithm would we want to use, because typically if you go in and you select 1 month, it depends on what month you use, because these individuals typically will go to Florida or Arizona or somewhere of that nature during the winter months. And John's coming to the podium, so maybe he can answer that for us about these snowbirds.
And when he comes to the podium, I would strongly suggest that you do not go with 1 month, because that is not going to be reflective of usage. It needs to be some period of time that's going to reflect normal usage when customers can be expected to be home and using water, but not necessarily using it outside, which would increase their flow. So that's the issue. And again, I'm going to say this again, just to be clear, this policy can't be just for this one particular neighborhood. It's going to have to be, something that would, at a minimum, I think, subject to the attorneys telling me I'm wrong, it's going to have to be something that applies to, at a minimum, all residential customers.
Well, I totally agree with what everybody's been talking about. And the snowbird issue, I understand is an issue. We probably have 6 current homeowners that leave for the winter, but there's just a few, but that could vary, and I understand that. But again, it gets back to we're 1- and 2-person households. So we're not using a lot of water in the winter, or unless, I'm not sure, I don't know everybody's water bill, but my current bill I just paid for water was $12, and my recent sewer bill that I'm paying was $30, and I'm a 2-person household. So that's, we're older folks, so that's the meat of that. We don't have children in the neighborhood, and it's all retirees.
So my guess is we'll bring this back in June or so, and I'll let you know. Next on the list was David Pugh, 12761 Northwest Commons Court, Mooresville. Did you have anything? I mean, just chime in if you do.
Nope. I'm used to yelling.
Dave?
If you'll come to the microphone here and then just speak there, they should be able to hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm basically here to back up John, so I'm not gonna go over everything John Earhart said, but I agree with all of it. And we in everyone I talked to in our addition feels it extremely unfair, of course, that we're paying for services not rendered, water that comes through the irrigation system. And then compounded with the proposed increase. Now, I know part of the art of negotiating and so forth, like Franklin Roosevelt did, he asked for stuff that was just totally outrageous, and expecting to get half or a quarter of what he was getting, and Congress at the time gave him all of it, everything he wanted. However, I went through this a while ago with a calculator, and the proposed increases are anywhere from 48.9% up to 49.2%, and that seems to me, of course I haven't gone through all the stuff that you guys went through, but practically a 50% increase seems like a ghastly amount to increase it. Now, I know that progress and so forth, there's going to be rate increases always, but 50% seems to me way beyond reason, and I'm just wanting to voice my opposition to the 50% increase in sewer rates here, and I won't take up any more of your time than what's valuable, and I'm not, like I said, I agree with John, so I'm not gonna go through everything that John went through, but we talk periodically on this matter, and so I thank you for your consideration.
No problem. Thanks for your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Pugh.
That exhausts the written sign-in sheet, so do we have anybody else in the audience that would like to speak regarding the sewer rate ordinance? Yes. Oh, come on up.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that there was a sign.
No, it's no problem. I want to make sure you get to speak, so.
This is like the second time I've been to one of those. My name is Oksana Ormans. I have communicated with Mr. Lee, I think. Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
That is right.
I'm sorry I don't use your first name. I'm afraid I mispronounce it, so.
It's okay.
So, it's, again, I agree with the previous speakers, and I'm sorry I didn't sign it. And I also represent my husband. The letter that we submitted was in both our names, but we have 2 children, and it is a stay-at-home policy anyway, so someone had to watch it. It was just, and I want to tell everyone that we live in outside the municipality zone, so we don't get a chance to vote for you guys. And the only time we hear about, and partially it's our fault, we should be following what's going on here, but the only time we hear about things happening when mail comes to us from you. And it just felt as if the communication we received was very short and not informative to us. The only thing we can see visually is use the calculator or computer, plug in all those numbers and get to that number from 48 to 49. And that's a steep increase. When last year I got my trash bill and it went by less than 2%, did I complain? I said, thank goodness, and paid it and move on, okay? 50% in a time like this, it just seems, and I understand that there was more information behind it than what we got in the letter. But the problem is when people open up a letter and they see 50% increase in the time when we're stuck at home, consuming a lot more water, when no one tells us when the rate is gonna be kicked in, next month, 2 months from now, a year from now, what for the money is gonna be used? How did I know there is a construction on 67 and Merriman Road, okay? I mean, yes, we probably should have, as residents, followed it, but we don't know about it. None of the communication, the 2 pages that were sent to us, mentioned anything about construction, what the sewer utilities. It just said, here's your new proposed rate. If you want, comment here, send here. And the third choice for people like me who will complain after it's already been decided. So, and then I appreciate Mr. Lee answering the questions back. That was great, and then within 24-hour period, I printed it out on purpose. It was a page worth of answers to those questions. You could have easily included that with that letter, and it would have already erased tons of frustration. If we would have known what this is going to be used for. And again, to be honest, I'm a numbers person, okay? Obviously, I'm the one who plugged them in. Even your response about, and I'm assuming that, I think that the study that was done by the companies, the representative is actually online, on the phone. To be honest, that's not enough for a person like me, a person who likes numbers. How that 50% increase on the households and even the commercial, because it's permits and everything, how much money is it raising, okay? I know how much additional is gonna cost me because I have my bill and I see what is gonna go up by, but on a monthly basis and annually. But what is town of Mooresville expecting to raise out of it? What that gonna go towards? How much been already spent? Has any money been received from the state if we were forced to do this by the state to make our sewers utilities better? What additional money? I've heard something about bonds in this conversation. Why are we not issuing enough bonds to cover everything? Why do we have to, and I understand again, like if it would have been 5% increase before, we would have paid it and moved on. But 50, that's just a drastic, and again, like, as you said, it's on average like $20 per household, but still a month. You know, that's what, at least $200 a year. So it just seems, we'd like to hear more numbers, we'd like to hear what the money would be used, and again, I'm sure it's been brought up, and it's partially our fault, but again, like, it's just a shock, and it only gives you 2 weeks to try to respond to it somehow, you know, together, and again, like, we are not necessarily deal with you guys, we don't know how to communicate. Normally, again, like, we used to, when the automatic setup of the bill was not available, we used to drop it off every month, and we kind of at least kept in touch with you guys that way. But now that the automatic payment's up, we don't ever deal with you. We appreciate that we are getting the utilities through you guys because we can't just go around. Even with the trash book, if that trash book last year would have went 50%, would have went across the street and said, "What? I know you have a different trash can out there. I think you're using someone else." I would have went and said, "Can I have their number because I might switch?" You know, if they're not raising their, but with the sewers, I cannot do that. I'm stuck with you guys, and we want to work with you guys. We've done this for the last 15 years, and we've been happy with it. But it's just, we have 2 weeks to try to find out what it's all about. Not everyone has Facebook. Like they're saying, you know, that they're an older neighborhood. I cannot believe they're on Facebook. I cannot believe they know how to use a YouTube. I mean, this is a premiere for me, not only for, you know, it's just, to me, it's cloud out of nowhere, and I mean, realistically, we just want to hear more about what is it being used for? Is it all driven? Why is that improvement being required? I mean, we functioned somehow before without any problems. What happened all of a sudden that required this construction?
Would it help if I went through a timeline of what happened here? Or do you care?
Sure.
It's a
Again,
little-
and again, I would hate to prolong your meeting because I'm sure, as
It's
you've been
okay.
saying, you've been doing this since October.
I typed up a timeline.
But it would be nice to know what is going on, I guess.
Okay, I'm gonna read through this timeline real quickly because I think it's important to have it on the record. Oh, thank you.
Can't reach it.
Thank you. So I went back through meeting minutes from the town council and redevelopment commission, and I came on the council in January of this year. Okay, so I'm fairly new, but I had been attending meetings for several years. So on September 6th of 2018, the redevelopment commission orders an appraisal to purchase the Poly property, which is 100 acres worth of property south of town. It's now annexed into town. November 1, 2018, the redevelopment commission approved the purchase agreement to purchase the 100 acres.
So again, just to start.
Yeah.
What was town of Mooresville purchasing that land for to begin with?
To develop industrial, commercial property.
So at that point, did town of Mooresville had a certain business in mind that was going to occupy
well,
that?
Yes and no. It'll become more clear as I read through this. And I just want this on the record because this has been going on for a long time. February 19th, 2019, the town council hires an engineer to evaluate the south side sewer infrastructure, which is a big part of what this raise is going to be financing. March 19th, 2019, town council approves the rezone of the 100 acres to industrial. So this land was agricultural, owned by the town. They rezoned it to industrial because they're going to develop it for industrial use. September 2nd, 2019, town council engaged Baker Tilly to do the sewer rate study, which we have the final results of now. October 15th, 2019, the town council contracted Banning Engineering to design the sewer project. November 19, 2019, town council votes to move forward with both phases of the sewer project and sewer rate increases. Now, I think, did I see you had pictures of the sewer? Okay, so if you look.
I see them here now, yeah.
So this is largely what this raise is to cover. It's to make the bond payments to build those two phases. December 17th, 2019, the town council president and redevelopment commission president signed a development agreement with NICEPAC. So there's your company. Okay.
Exactly.
They're bringing in $80 million of investment. We're saving 400 jobs and gaining another 100. If we lost them, we would lose 500 jobs and all of the tax volume that creates. The other issue is NICEPAC's a huge sewer user. So if we lost them, rates were going to go up because no matter what, that's right.
Do we have an estimate of how much they would have went up if we would have lost them?
I don't know.
They're 1/3 of the rate users.
Okay, about 1/3 of the rate use. The new facility is going to use 1 million gallons a day, up to 1 million gallons a day, which almost doubles the town capacity from my understanding. So they're a huge sewer user, so you have the sewer fees to consider. On January 7th, that was my first meeting. I had asked the council, and the council obliged me a delay of 2 weeks on voting to proceed with the sewer project since it was my first meeting, and the council obliged. I felt this drew more attention to the project at the time. On January 21 of 2020, both Baker Tilly and Banding Engineering explained the rate study in the Southside Sewer project to the public, complete with displays much like what you see there. The council moved forward with a favorable vote at that time. February 4th of 2020, the town council hires the bonding partner, which is the attorney handling the transaction. He's on the phone, Adam Sturwald. March 3rd, bond ordinance is discussed and read by the town council. Phase 1 of the sewer project bids open. So we've already bid this project with nice back end of balance, but also a lot of the project, I don't know the percentage, maybe about 70% is old infrastructure anyway. We're replacing all kinds of lift stations. We're replacing the siphon system at TOA. We're replacing mains and expanding capacity for the future growth of the area.
Again, I understand all that, but it seems as if it was caused by the commercial use. By the rates though, however, they all increase about 50% equally. Shouldn't commercial bear a little bit more of an increase than the residential? Because I mean, all of this was driven by the commercial to begin with.
One part of it is not. All of that, and I don't know, did your email say that you lived on Crosby Road?
Yes.
Okay, one of the sections there,
Yeah.
the phase,
Part of the Crosby Road is town of Mooresville, and part of the Crosby Road is not. Oh, we are truly in buffer zone.
the part of the system, and keep in mind that this dates back to the mid-'80s. All of this equipment, and what you're seeing here as far as the line, yes, okay. So where you come in here, you come down and there's actually a lift station right here. Mr. Sweeney put that in, and that lift that comes
Yeah,
up
we have
to.
a lift station in
Yep.
our own area,
Yep.
our own, because otherwise we cannot get it, because this is very hilly area. Building,
Okay,
yeah.
so all of this system here is 30 to 35 years old. So what we're looking at is taking and redoing this. Now, this part here, we're going to shoot back across. All this here, we're going to shoot back on here and come line. So it's less water here. This is going to come down here, and when we come back here, this phase 2, we're going to replace the lift station, not yours personally, but where yours comes into. Then we're going to come down here, and then here, now the way this works is kind of like a P-trap inside of your sink, where it goes down and creates a siphon and pulls it out. We have a lot of maintenance problems here. This tends to stop up. We got to clean it. We're going to go with the force pressure main right here. That's going to take this system that currently has our industrial park and brings it down past your property, and that's going to isolate right here and isolate this through here. Phase 2 is also going to take all the industrial park where it was coming here with the force main and drop it back here and come back around. So all the lift stations through here that are 35 years old are getting replaced. The other thing that we're doing with them is that couldn't be afforded, wasn't cost effective 35 years ago. Everything's going to have backup power systems to where if the power goes down to them, they'll have a generator, they'll take off, they'll run on their own. Is it better? Absolutely. Is it new technology? It's better technology than what we had available then. It is 35 years of wear and tear and trying to make the system whole again, trying to make it better. Not waiting until it broke on us to try to put a Band-Aid on it. We're trying to keep it maintained, just like you do yours. And
I just had to do it during the freeze period because I got the backup.
Well, I'm going to tell you one other thing that I'm a little concerned with, and we've talked about this and we've needed to address it. You talked about the trash bill; it went up 3%. Where this council, and I will take as much blame as anyone. Where this council and every other council throughout the United States falters is when they don't address these issues a little bit at a time, 3% at a time, 3% at a time.
We wish you would have 5 years ago started.
10 years ago, because the bill has not went up 10 years. If you look at your scatter,
It's just that 50%, when people see see it, it looks awful. I mean, physically it looks awful. No matter whether we need it or not, it just, I mean, it's a bad.
But at, you know, I've always said that we could raise it 3% every year and we would maybe be, but then it would be hard to justify why are we raising it. I'm going to tell you that.
And then you're going to have to follow through the process of approving it like this, which is again a pain, can be a pain.
Well,
Of course, obviously,
I've been here 3
might not
months.
be.
We've had a tornado, COVID, and a rate increase.
Exactly, no, I know. But again, like, and not to blame you because you just said you just
Yeah.
came on. But if we would have looked a little bit and prepared maybe
Yep.
5 years, 5% increase.
Yep.
3 years, another 5%. Then it wouldn't have felt that bad. It's just, it looks bad, it sounds bad, it's gonna be hard. And I'm thankful that it is till next, February, and it gives a little bit more people to prepare. But it's hard to push politically, no matter how,
Yeah.
50% increase. It shocks people. It's not nice to people. People don't like it. Okay?
but as your scavenger service went up 50% in 10 years. I mean, did we let you down by not raising it 3% or 4% every year for the past 10 years? Possibly. But this way, I can assure you that when you said, why don't we issue more bonds? We're not putting, if we look at it, where we failed is if we did, part of the study was if we do nothing, just status quo, cost of operating and maintenance. And that's 10 years of increases of salaries, increases of insurance, increases of fuels, increases of electricity that we have not accounted for. We were going to see the base rate go from $16.95 to $20.25. So about 25% right there to do nothing. If we did nothing other than cover the increase in operating and maintenance. So when you say that's a 50% increase, we are seeing that 50% increase, but we're doing other projects also to keep it from being astronomical when we have a failure. Like I said.
And another thing then too, if we're experiencing a 50% increase this time, have we looked far enough ahead that this is going to solve our issues and then we're going to have another, hopefully, are we, because, okay, let's say public backs you up and we all agree to this, 50% increase. But then a year later you come and say, oh, oops, we had another something.
I'm not coming back in a year.
How come, people are going to be even madder? I mean.
I know.
From 1983 until 2006, they never raised the sewer bill in this town.
No, I haven't been here.
And then in 2010, they raised it because they did get a awesome good deal on a plan improvement. There was federal monies, there was monies left over, and they did a great job. And they raised them in 4 years, for between 6 and 10. And now we're looking at 11 years later, basically, to raise them again. Part of the seated councils at the time, when we said, hey, we need to move forward, we also gave the directive that we want to look at if nothing else, an index, a cost of living index or something that we can put on this and raise this bill every time. And that's looked upon as just another way to build a slush fund. And that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to protect ourselves from a 50% raise 10 years from now. So I agree wholeheartedly. We should have been doing something a little at a time the whole time.
It looks bad. It shocks people, especially when you are like us. You don't hear anything about it, and then we have this, and then in 2 weeks we have to find out what has been happening in the last year, what's causing this, why is this happening on our own, kind of, because I mean, again, it's a bad situation where we're in an emergency.
Every one of the council members has their phone numbers listed. Feel free to call any of us. Every one of us will help you any way that we can.
So, but those are the additional comments. You don't have to, I mean, it's up to you, it's up to Mr. Lee to read. We submitted 2 letters. We submitted one by email and one by physical dropping off of the Dropbox. You don't have to read it. It's just general comments. We just wanted to know that's a significant increase. We wanted to know what was causing it, why it was happening, and again, why wasn't, when we're not preparing it by smaller increases, maybe making people more less frustrated and maybe giving us a little bit more information about it. And maybe still considering splitting and making the commercial carry a little bit slighter higher increases than, and again, I don't know the legality, I don't know what's behind the exactly right around and or under the 50%, how much you can raise the rates at a time and all this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Kim, this is Dustin.
So real question, sorry, so did
Uh-huh.
a little bit, but I really believe that it is up for her to decide whether or not she wants her email and letter read into the record or not.
Go ahead and read it. I think it still has valid points. For us who heard it first on April 10th, after we received it in the mail, I think there are some valid points that lots of people in this community feel true. I don't understand why they don't show up to the meetings and express them in person, but it's their own faults. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Stanley, did you have a question?
I didn't have a question, but I was wondering if Kent had anything to add to Tom's explanation of the existing system versus the proposed system.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at, when we did the study for this back in 2008, we were looking at holistic standpoint, not the site that what was the business existing to serve existing customers that were on them, and looking at roads, secondary, just look after replace, as Tom said, as our old infrastructure. Trying to do, but it's a lot cheaper to upside than go ahead and replace it in kind what we have now. So that's why we looked at upsizing that out to the economy and to go ahead and do that. Regardless if any industry in that area, we have to replace the listed with regardless. The being, you know, just saying that being 6 inches on a 10 inch, we have to replace the 6 inch main. Not cost 10 inch with your green.
We lost them
It
there.
has to be regardless to any infrastructure development. That is cost for this project.
We lost you at the end. Can you repeat that last about 30 seconds, please? Start from the 10 inch. Sorry.
I was just thinking that we would have to go ahead and replace whether it's a replace with thing versus going up 10 inch deal on that. We would have to go ahead and do that regardless of development. I mean, that
He's saying to replace, you'd have to replace the 10-inch main regardless of other elements of the project, is what I'm hearing. Is that what he said?
Yeah, that's fine.
So basically, you're saying whether we have to have commercial or not, correct?
There are parts of this that service residential areas, that's for sure, yeah.
Oh, what, yeah. But they were saying, like, you were saying that we would have to replace it no matter what. That's what-
Yes.
Correct.
It's at the end of its useful life, but
And I would add also, whenever the time comes when other parts, say the northern part, more in the county is being replaced, this southern part will have to incur those rates as well. So it's a give and take whenever the time comes to replace a part of the system, the whole community is in, whether or not it's in their immediate community.
Yeah, but then when the north, if we do work in the north, then the southern
We
people,
have to bury it again.
it's kind of back and forth.
So,
Once
this
the-
project is only concerned the south, then.
And the operation and maintenance costs. It does take into consideration where we should be had we done nothing. It takes into consideration the cost of doing business.
Then my question is, does the north side needs work? And when that's gonna be done and how much that's gonna be increased our bills?
The north side is mainly gravity down to it, and I'm going to say for the past 20 years, we have done work on the north side a little bit at a time, and a lot of that work has been done with food and beverage funds. We did, Dave, $200,000 in the steam line over here. Is that right?
A little north of 200.
A little over $200,000 in lining a main, what we consider to be the west side interceptor, trying to keep groundwater out of it. So we have used other resources to try to maintain and repair and upgrade our systems.
Without raising rates before.
Without raising rates, yes.
Okay. Jewel, do you want to read her letter into the record and then me see if there's any others in the meeting room that wants to speak?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, go ahead.
So this is from Connor Owens. Respected Town Council of Mooresville and Lucky property owners and other parties that are not restricted and are currently in attendance. We, as residents of Mooresville, Indiana, of more than 15 years, want to express our uneasy suspicions and reservations about the way that this particular proposed increase in sewer rates is being handled. If the opinions of the property owners and interested parties, as mentioned in the notice itself, were really intended to be heard, why was the rate change introduced and would be decided during the existing COVID-19 national emergency, which would automatically restrict the number of attendees at the hearing on April 21st, 2020. This alone makes the whole issue smell of taxation without representation, not even taking into account the fact that the rate increase in question would increase the bills by almost 50% for many voters in buffer zone, who unfortunately had no chance to elect the present members of the Mooresville Town Council. Sneaky timing of such a significant sewer bill increase also seems to feast on the most vulnerable, who, in the midst of a severe crisis of overwhelming job loss and forced stay-at-home reality, are utilizing significantly higher volumes of water and, as a result, sewer. The majority of the town of Mooresville sewer customers are at such a tragic time are almost certainly not only incapable to incur additional minimal rate increase, but hardly can afford the reality of mounting sewer usage. Additionally, would the town council be so kind to provide the actual methodology behind such a drastic increase of sewer rates? What would the expected funds raised from the increase be used for? It would have at least made town council look better if they added some of the reasons behind the rate increase into the notice. Instead, the notice informed us that even attendance would be restricted. We hope to be able to get written responses to all the questions and concerns listed above, as we are pretty sure our attendance to this public hearing will be limited as the stay-at-home ordinance in the state of Indiana just got extended to May 1, 2020. Thank you so much in advance for your undivided attention and concern about the well-being of Mooresville property owners and interested parties. Respectfully submitted, Mr. and Mrs. Kenneth Owens. In response to that, I did respond to Ms. Owens regarding some of the timing and the questions themselves, and so I will read her secondary email. As users located outside the municipality's corporate boundaries, we tend to be very lax to hear about things discussed in the town council monthly meetings. The additional information you generously provided below might have been available to the responsible town of Mooresville voters for months. Unfortunately, we only became aware of the possible sewer rate increase through the notice of public hearing on proposed increase in the sewer rate and charges for the town of Mooresville, Indiana, promptly delivered by Fabulous USPS. This brief two-page notice lacked any of the additional information you quickly disclosed below.
amounted to only one additional page of text when printed out, which easily and with hardly any additional cost could have been part of the original notice. It seems as if the proactive provisions in question could have eliminated some of the frustration now being realized by town council's constituents. Additionally, though seemingly impossible to misinterpret some of the originally provided information in the notice does not align with standard dictionary definitions. For example, filing in the office of the clerk treasurer at the government center, for many, does not necessarily constitute a drop box at the same location. Also, Indiana Governor, respected Mr. Eric Holcomb, reasonably restricted public gatherings to no more than 10 people until at least May 1st, 2020. Either the original notice or the description of the proceedings intended to happen tonight seem to regard Governor Holcomb as trustworthy. Literally, looking forward to live YouTube premiere of this written comment and your response to it tonight. Oksana Owens.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other members of the public in the meeting house that want to come up and speak from either location, either room? There's no one?
Nobody else downstairs.
Yeah.
Real quick, this is Dustin Stanley. I want to point out there may be room for improvement on those letters. I know we were following state statute and we don't make those statutes, but I do think that maybe there is room for improvement there.
The revisions would have been nice to, even as you said, you have that one-page document summarizing why all that. I mean, that stamp that had to be paid to send those letters to every one of us, okay? It covers, as far as I know, up to like 12 pages of, okay? So if you would have included 2 more pages, like the brief answers that Mr. Lee provided to me, okay? And maybe, put in that layout, why we had to do this, for what purposes, another 1 page, would not kill anyone, but would have eased someone's frustrations, okay, when they open up and see the 50% bill increase, okay, and then bad publicity on Facebook, on your page, or whatever, when people are complaining and arguing, and because that's not the intent. We all want our town to be better.
There's no other people in the meeting room. Jewel, do you want to read the rest of the written comments and emailed comments?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay.
So the next comment is from Patty Powell. She did not provide an email address or a street address. People are already out of work due to COVID-19 and can't afford their homes, let alone an increase in sewer bill. Increases like this will drive people out of the community. The next comment is from Terry Arthur. Let me see. There's no address on this one either. To whom it may concern, I have questions regarding the proposed sewer rate increase. First of all, I think it is an injustice to the citizens of Mooresville that the hearing is being held during a stay-at-home order issued by Governor Holcomb. This rate increase impacts the public, yet we cannot attend. At the current time, the entire United States is going through a health crisis. People are out of work, schools are closed, therefore more individuals are at home due to the government's stay-at-home order. Those who own homes just received a property tax notices, and many rate between $80 to $100. Grocery stores are price hiking, therefore we are paying more than normal. Since we are at home and other utilities will be higher each month. Many people will live on a fixed income if they cannot pay current bill. How will they pay them with an increase? If the increase was $5, it might be reviewed differently. However, the proposed increase is almost 50%. The document of notice of public hearing on proposed increase in sewer rates and charges for the town of Mooresville, Indiana, states property owners and other interested parties in the town of Mooresville. Does this affect worker trace, worker run, road, and dispo? And I'll stop there at that point for that question to be answered.
The question was, does it affect the rates in Rolling Vista?
No, we don't. Rolling Vista, we do not provide.
Worker trace, worker run, and rolling vista.
Those we
Worker Trace, Worker Run, but Rolling Vista is the one on 144 east of Five Points, I believe. And we do not provide sanitary sewer for them. That is a private system.
Okay. And it goes on. As we have been advised, we are not part of the town when it comes to trash pickup. We pay for private pickup, however, the city has pickup included in their bill. If we are going to be part of a rate increase that states property owners in the town of Mooresville, then I have to question, are we part of the town or not? If we are, when does trash pickup begin?
We don't have public trash service here. It's all private, even in town limits.
If Worker Trace, Worker Run, Rolling Vista are going to be impacted via the increase as well, and it does not include trash pickup, how do you justify that we pay $52 every 3 months for trash pickup and the individuals in the city do not? I believe you guys have already answered that question.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Why is a rate increase important at this time? And I believe that question has been answered in response to Ms. Owens' inquiry.
Sure,
How are the rates calculated for the
you don't
increase?
need to answer it again, because what Ms. Owens got as an answer, the rest of the people did not.
Well,
Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, they have not heard it. And he answered to me, and his response was not read to me. Do you see what I'm saying? I think-
it's being recorded. Everything's
I know,
recorded.
but his response, Mr. Lee's response to me was never read out loud.
Okay, so I think I hear what Ms. Owens is saying, Shane, and I can tell Ms. Owens that I responded to Ms. Arthur in a similar fashion that I
Oh, I
responded to
see.
Ms.
Okay,
Owens.
that's great. As long as you responded to every one of those questions individually, that's fine, but.
She's just saying to read it out loud, Jules, so that for the benefit of the public.
The responses I provided?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I'll go through the remainder of Ms. Arthur's email.
Okay.
And I will go back and then read the response I sent to Ms. Arthur regarding this.
Okay.
How much revenue will the rate increase generate and how will it be used? How do the rates in Mooresville compare to surrounding areas? If the proposed increase is approved, when will it go into effect? This is a proposed increase for sewer. Is water going to follow? Is there a max percent or cap of increase over a period of years, or next year, can we receive an additional 50% increase? My responses were to not specifically on each question. So first I would pose it to, I will ask the questions again that I did not respond to. I responded in general fashion. from the rates and charges at the current rates, figure out what that difference is, and then in this case have applied a percentage increase to the existing rates and charges. And those rates and charges then get increased by that percentage amount. We did make an adjustment, a slight adjustment to the extremely low volume users, in the sense that the minimum bill that residents are paying right now for 2,000 gallons is going to remain at the $23.91 that those customers are currently paying. So there is a bit of a change there, but by and large it's an across-the-board percentage increase of the existing rates and charges to cover the additional dollars that are necessary to operate the utility.
Okay, and then the next question that I did not provide an answer to is how much revenue will the rate increase generate? If there's an estimate.
Yeah, the rate increase is going to generate about a little under $1 billion of additional revenue over the course of a year to fund all of those different items that I just went through.
Okay. Are you aware of the rates in Mooresville compared to surrounding areas?
Yes, just give me a second. So after the increase, the rate for an average customer using 4,000 gallons will be about $46. Rates for other communities, Whitestown, where I'll start. Well, let me back up a second. The challenge in comparing rates from different systems is always that each system has its own customer base, made up of residential, commercial, industrial customers that all use their system differently than what any other system that you're comparing to uses. So we're comparing apples and oranges and cucumbers as we go through this, because we've got the Mooresville system that has its customer base and it's operated a certain way and has its treatment process, compared to these other utilities that I'll list that have different customers and perhaps different treatment processes and are different size systems. So you always have to take that into consideration as you consider this response. But as I said, Mooresville with 4,000 gallons after the increase will be about $46. The town of Whitestown, again, these are for all the same amount of flow, 4,000 gallons. Whitestown presently is at $57.12. Westfield is at $55.80. Pittsburgh is at $48.18. Lebanon is at $46.81. So those are all the communities that I have right here at my fingertips that are greater. Noblesville is at $41.78. Danville, $39.08. The current rate for Mooresville, under the rates as they exist today, is $30.87. Crawfordsville is at $27.55. Frankfurt, $26.22. And Carmel, $26.11. So those are what we try to do there, is look at communities in the donut surrounding Indianapolis that have a sewer system and show what those rates are. So even after the increase, so let me say it this way, right now Mooresville is well below the average of those communities under the present rates, and after the increase will be right at average, maybe just a little bit above average for those communities.
Okay, and then finally, is there a max percent or cap of increase over a period of years or next year? Can we receive an additional 50% increase? I think I can speak to this just statutorily, or Adam, do you want to speak to it?
Adam Sturwell, with Barnes and Thornburg. So we are statutorily limited to a justifiable rate, and this rate is assumes both phases of the project, and those rates will then be used to pay back some bond financings that will be taken out next year to
to pay for those projects, so we cannot then again raise without other change in circumstances. Julie, you want to add any additional details or?
No, I think that's absolutely it. So there was no statutory cap on a percentage that's been out there, not a firm number, but it is, we have to be able to justify the amounts that are going to be raised. One of the other questions, so Adam is correct in that, one of the other questions is, this is a proposed increase for sewer, is water going to follow? In the town of Mooresville, the town owns the sewer utility. The water utilities are separate private entities. Indian American and Hill Water, and they control the water rate. And so the town of Mooresville does not have any impact on that. The response that I had written to Ms. Arthur, and is very similar to what I wrote to Ms. Owens as well, so I'll just read this into the record. Ms. Arthur, my name is Julie, and I am the attorney for the town of Mooresville. First, I want to thank you for participating and sending in questions to the town council hearing. The entirety of your statement and questions will be read into the record and answered during the hearing itself. However, I wanted to take this opportunity to address some of your overarching concerns. While I understand your concern regarding the timing, this is not an issue where the town is attempting to take advantage of the current stay-at-home order. This project has been in process since last year and has been a topic of discussion in several town council meetings. The rates are to facilitate the extension of the sanitary sewer system to the Merriman 67 area. While not entirely tied to a redevelopment project located in that area, it is necessary for the project to proceed. A rate study was conducted by Mid Tilly and presented at multiple town council meetings, as were construction projects and designs. Phase 1 of the project went out to bid for construction in February and is due to begin later this year. I can assure you that the town council is painfully aware of the unfortunate circumstances surrounding the timing of this hearing, and has taken several steps, including the creation of this email address in an attempt to provide as much opportunity for the public to participate. The last action the council took was to push out the impact of the increased rate to February 2021 because of the exact issues you raised. Unfortunately, due to the timing of the construction, the actual rate hearing and ordinance must be adopted on the current schedule if adopted at all. The hearing itself will be broadcast live via the town's YouTube channel. You will go, if you go to YouTube and search the town of Mooresville, Indiana, the channel should be available starting just before 6:30. It is important to include Indiana in your search, as there is also a channel for the town of Mooresville, North Carolina. In addition, the town council president Shane Williams shall be broadcasting the hearing on Facebook Live. I thank you again for your participation in this process, and we will be taking email questions through the conclusion of the hearing. So in that, I wanted to address some of the overarching concerns regarding the timing of the hearing, when the rate increase was coming into play. The next comment was sent in by Deborah Mason. I do not feel like we need a raise on our sewer rate. I do not think in this time of pandemic, COVID-19, where people have been laid off and or are not working, is not a time to raise costs. Our community is struggling. To raise rates when we cannot meet our own needs and our voices cannot be heard is completely taking advantage of the situation. To raise our utility costs at this time is unethical and immoral and should wait until this pandemic is over and our community can go back to work. Thank you. Does anybody from the council or anybody else want to address the statement?
I think we are waiting.
Yeah, I think this is Shane Williams. I would, if we delayed this, we would jeopardize a lot of things, but if we delayed it and did this normally, let's say we delayed it 6 months from now and went through this same process, did it normally, they would be paying a higher sewer rate sooner than February 2021. So the council saw this dilemma because of the natural timing of this set of events that's been going on for months and I think you can argue years. Because of that natural set of events that led to now, we paused what we were going to do, which was, an earlier rate increase based on normal timelines, statutory and otherwise, and we said, let's come up with a different alternative, which was a bond anticipation note that allowed us to move forward with the project, take care of bad infrastructure, take care of NICEPAC, and other things. And as well, not phase in new rates to people until February 2021. Normally, you wouldn't get a 10-month notice on your new rates. I mean, so you can look at it two ways. You can look at it like we snuck it up on you, which we didn't in reality, or you can say, hey, I got a longer notice than I normally would have under normal circumstances.
But to be honest though, nowhere in this letter it says rates to be incurred in February of 2021.
We acknowledge that. We do acknowledge
So
that.
when we get it in the mail, we think, okay, is that tomorrow? I mean, on the 21st you vote on it?
Oh,
And then-
understood, because no one would ever think that that a council would give 10 months notice and give that much of a lag time, because it's never been done in the town of Mooresville before. So we
This is self-inflicted. Like all this rage of people saying, oh, well, why is it happening now? Reason that, to me, that's self-inflicted. That shouldn't have happened. That should have been set here. This is proposed rates to be started on this day.
duly noted. I appreciate that. You want to say something?
Do you have anything else? Dustin's coming over the phone.
Again, just to reiterate, I believe, yes, that, you know, fully acknowledge that there is room for improvement. You know, I believed, you know, almost a year now that we've been talking about this, some of this. Is there room for improvement? Maybe. I mean, papers, social media, YouTube, streaming live, and we follow the statutes. Maybe there is, and we do need to look at that. But I think we did a heck of a job trying to get word out, and then delaying it on top of that.
It wasn't evident in the letter.
Yeah, the
okay?
letter was the problem. Do you, I just want to make sure other members of the council have a chance to have input on any of what we've been talking about that are on the phone. Are you two good?
I'm good. I don't have anything further.
Okay, how about you, Mr. Cook? Did we lose Jeff Cook? He may have.
It was a no, can I? Yeah, I think he had it on mute.
Okay. So continue, Attorney Lee, please.
Okay. The next email is from Michelle Grossklos. It is the exact same email as Deborah Mason, but I will read it just so it's still in the record. I do not feel like we need a raise on our sewer rate. I do not think in this time of the pandemic, COVID-19, where people have been laid off and or are not working, is not a time to raise costs. Our community is struggling. Businesses have closed. To raise rates when we cannot meet and our voices cannot be heard is completely taking advantage of the situation. To raise our utility costs at this time is unethical and immoral and should wait until this pandemic is over and our community can go back to work. The next email and comment is from Matthew and Monique McLean, 908 Moonlight Court, Mooresville, Indiana, 46158. We are writing in regards to town sewer rates. We would like to start out by saying this meeting at this time during stay-at-home order is unethical. It's taking advantage of the situation. People aren't able to leave their homes or be in groups of more than 10 people and therefore unable to voice their concerns. Not everyone knows you can mail your complaint or email them in, and most people would like to voice their concerns in person. Questions and concerns about the rate increase can't be heard because we, the people, are unable to attend the meeting. A rate increase at this time isn't logical. People are out of work and barely able to pay their current bill. So how does it make sense to increase their bills at this time? The rate has been the same for a few years now and has been fine, so why now when the whole country is economically challenged and are we talking rate increases? It seems like it's happening because there's not much we the people can do with the stay-at-home order in place. This is a time when it is hard to reach out to people and voice concerns because most businesses are closed and people are out of work, and you know that. If you want to talk rate increases, this needs to be done at another time when you can hear concerns of people in person and people can attend the meeting. The current sewage rate has been in effect for years now and has been adequate. Mooresville has been running smoothly, everything has been fine. For many of us, our sewage bills are about the same as our water bills currently. The rate increase will make our sewage bill higher than our water bill. How does that make sense? Not all of the water we use goes down the drain. A great deal of it doesn't go down the drain. Many of us feel that the rates are high enough as they are. Unfortunately, many of our town's voices have to go unheard due to the timing of this meeting, which is unconstitutional. Here are a list of questions and concerns we have. Why do the rates need to increase now? What benefit does it have? And I think that question has been answered throughout, but if anybody would like to answer that again.
Jewel, do you think this meeting is unconstitutional?
No, this is not an unconstitutional meeting. We have vetted this. It is obviously a very different and trying time period. However, it is not unconstitutional. I had a conversation with the Public Access Council this morning as he was inquiring about this. I explained to him the timing, much as I did to Ms. Owens in the email, to Ms. Allen in the email, or Arthur in the email as well. And he understood why this hearing had to proceed in the manner we were doing.
And he agreed with you that it was essential to continue with this meeting.
Yes, he understood that why the town of Mooresville would consider this meeting and the rate increase at this time to be an essential duty of the government.
Okay. Any other comments on this letter?
Yeah, there are a couple other questions here.
Okay.
So the first question is, why do the rates need to increase now? I believe that's been discussed. It's regarding phase 1 and phase 2 of the sewer project. I think Councilman Morton explained that you need to both maintain and rehabilitate some of the old lines that have been there 35 years, in addition to the assistance it will provide to the project at Merriman at 67. Next question, is it necessary to increase sewer rates? Again, I believe that has been answered throughout the hearing. Yes, it is. Where is the revenue from the rate increase going? I believe that Scott answered that earlier in his explanation, is that both how they calculated the rate and where it's going is to pay for the operations of the sewer project and for the debt service connected with the construction project. Next question is the increase going to benefit more than it is going to hurt the people of the town of Mooresville? And I will leave that to either any council people to answer, or Scott, or Adam, or Kent.
I say it's absolutely going to benefit all of the people. As we point out time and time again, our sewer system is a publicly owned utility. We all have ownership in it. We all want it maintained properly. We don't want to have problems with it. This is, I'm not going to say neglect, but this is 20, 25, 30, 35 years of systems that have gone past and operated well throughout their useful life. And now what we're trying to do is try to make them better and make them last for another 25, 35, 40 years. We're given the task when we're elected, and I realize that the people that got this can't vote for us, but we're given the task to try our best to run this in an efficient and perfect manner for all of the people that buy into our wastewater treatment plant. So I think it's going to benefit everyone. The question was brought up, and it was a very well thought out question. Does this benefit just the south side, and what do we do about the north side? It does benefit the south side as far as some increased flows and maintenance and repairs, but it also benefits the north side because it's less things that are going to have to be fixed in an emergency situation a year, 2 years, or 10 years down the road. So I think it benefits everyone within the system.
Do you have any?
This is Dustin. At our, forgive me, last meeting or the meeting before, I just thought it'd be a good time, for everybody to realize that we did go ahead and waive those late fees. Just to try to help with COVID. I know everybody seems to be hitting on COVID right now, and we did kind of waive those, recognizing the problem. So I just wanted to add that too.
On sewer
Yeah.
bills, yeah. I would say the way it helps the entire town is that once the costs are sunk for this infrastructure, all those user fees are going into the same utility. The new user fees from the expansion of new users added on because of this, both the potential maybe for residential and definitely industrial. Once the costs are sunk, all of those utility fees, those new user fees, flow into this overall maintenance of in operation of the sewer plant after the costs of putting the project in are gone. In NICEPAC's case, they've far outlasted any of their incentives, so they've been in the community a long time, so that's a plus.
So, nice pack moving.
The next questions, I believe both have been answered, but I will read them into the record anyway. If the proposed rate increase is approved, when does it go into effect? And as was stated earlier, the council taking action to push out the enactment of the new rate until February of 2021. And then is there a max cap at which the rate can no longer increase? Adam spoke to that while there is no specific percentage, there is a statutory prohibition against an unreasonable increase in the rates. The final email that I have is from Mike Crogley. I am Michael Crogley, property owner of 5834 East Shade Lake Drive in Lakeside Commons Development. I'm concerned about two pertinent issues related to this hearing. Holding a public hearing during the time when our governor has issued a shelter-in-place order demonstrates a lack of concern for area residents who would like to attend but have decided that it is not in their best interest of their personal health and that of others. Since I have serious health issues, I am one of those people. I ask that the public hearing be promptly adjourned and rescheduled after the current health crisis situation changes. Two, I want to support the message sent by John Earhart regarding the request for summer sewer rate adjustment. I readily concur with all that John has said on the topic. I have lived in several communities that have made provisions for summer sewer rate adjustment. It is a reasonable request from residents who are being charged for sewer beyond actual usage. Along with other residents of Lakeside Commons, I respectfully ask that the summer sewer rate will be enacted immediately. Thank you, Michael Crosby, and then his address. Those are the only, those are all of the emails that have come in through the box.
Okay. So, since we would need, if everybody is finished speaking, we would need a vote to close the public hearing and move on,
good?
correct?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, so Councilman Worthen has motioned to close the public hearing portion of the sewer rate ordinance discussion. Do I have a second? Councilman Cook seconds. So we'll do a roll call vote to close the public hearing. Dustin Stanley.
I just wanted to make sure that there was nobody downstairs. I vote aye. There was nobody downstairs.
Okay. Councilman Stanley votes aye. Councilman Worthen?
Aye.
Councilman Worthen votes aye. Councilman Cook?
Aye.
Councilman Cook votes aye. Councilwoman Hester?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye, and Shane Williams votes aye. The public hearing is closed.
Well, I appreciate everyone's input. I do think that this council has addressed the concerns. I think that we will take note, duly note, that we've got to communicate a little bit better in a different manner. but I still think that this project, or that this rate increase funds two very important projects. It also, and I don't want to lose sight of the fact that it continues to fund the increase in operating costs and maintenance costs that we've incurred over the past 10 years. So with that, I will make a motion to approve ordinance number 5, 2020.
Councilman Worthen makes a motion to approve the ordinance number 5, 2020. Do we have a second?
Crickets.
Stanley will second.
Councilman Stanley seconds. I'm going to offer any discussion on the ordinance by members of the council. I had one question. Jewel, could you explain section 4 to me?
Hold on 1 second. I had all those other emails.
Oh, you want me to read it out loud?
Please.
It says, any adjustments or allowances made to sewage bill quantities under any provision of ordinance number 8, 2010, or otherwise shall be in the form of a rebate rather than a discount and paid from revenues available in the improvement fund. Would that affect any sewer rate adjustment that we might do later?
This is Adam Sherwell. Mind if I jump in on this one, Jewel?
No, please go ahead.
So this will not, you can adjust the rates later, that will not affect any adjustment at a future time. However, there are certain tax requirements that do not allow you to have special agreements with members of the public that is not in the ordinance. So you can't go to Jimmy John's and say, Jimmy John's, you guys use X number of gallons, we're going to actually agree to only charge you 2 gallons a month and sign an agreement with them. So you have to, everything's got to kind of be applicable to everybody and through the ordinance. So but you can do a rebate. Let's say there's some meter issue, or you charge somebody and they come back and say, hey, the meter was wrong, there's a faulty meter, and I actually only used half the amount of water that the water meter claimed that I did, and if that is accurate, then you can refund, right, some of their usage. Did I answer your question, Shane?
Yeah. I had one more question and then I'll be quiet. And whoever can answer this. I noticed that Redevelopment Commission has entered into an agreement with NICEPAC to purchase some property. It was for nearly $1 million. I think it was 900 and some thousand. Is there still a possibility that the Redevelopment Commission, if they choose, could contribute, say, that $1 million to this project and reduce sewer rates for the end user?
I mean, we'd have to go through the process for all of that.
But it is possible.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's definitely possible. I mean, it's allowed if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah. That's what I would like to see happen, but that's just my opinion. Any other council members have a question? Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 5. I'll do a roll call vote. Dustin Stanley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dustin Stanley votes aye. Councilman Worthen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Worthen votes aye. Councilman Cook, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Cook votes aye. Councilwoman Hester, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye. And Shane Williams votes aye. The motion passes 5-0.
In the ordinance is the delay in collecting.
And that document is going on your website, the actual ordinance, or will it be posted?
It's up to our clerk treasurer when she posts that.
Ordinances all go into the website. It may take a little bit, how many?
We typically like to wait until we get them filed at the county, and then we'll post them on the website.
Okay, next item on the agenda under unfinished business is rezone at
I'm sorry, Council President.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I could just interrupt you real quickly before you move on. On the call, we still have Scott Miller from Baker Tilly, Adam Stewart from Barnes Goldberg, and Ken Elliott from Family. Will you need them for any other parts of the meeting, or would they be excused to hang out there?
I think they can be excused unless, yes, everybody's agreeing they can be excused. Sorry about that. Jewel, would you mind?
Thank you.
Thank you. Jewel, would you mind introducing these rezones?
Yeah, that's fine. So, the next two items are the rezone of 10015 North Old State Road 67 and the rezone of the County Line Road Church. This is just the actual ordinance which amends the zoning ordinance to provide for the zoning that was recommended by the Area Planning Commission and accepted by the council. I know that there are certain questions as to whether or not you have to actually act on an ordinance. In large part, that is dictated by the local community. The statute itself says that upon the recommendation of the Area Planning Commission, if no action is taken within 90 days, that recommendation that the Planning Commission provides is accepted. So if they had an approval, then it would become an approval. If it was a recommended for denial, it would become a denial. Some communities have said that it's 90 days and you can go through the process of the ordinance. There's nothing hurts by the actual passing of the written ordinance form to recognize it, so that there's a written recorded document as well that Diana will file with the recorded document. So both of these ordinances are in regards to items in which the area plan has given a favorable recommendation for rezoning. The first one, rezone at 10015 North Old State Road 67, is a move from an agricultural district to an I-1 for industrial. And so that's the first one that is in front of you guys.
And this, it looks like I've got the church here that's ordinance 6, which would be the County Line Road Church, which is item C. And so would Old State Road 67, what's the ordinance in there, 7?
That one is 6. Did I not do that?
No, it is the industrial, the one we did last meeting, the industrial property on Old 67. What ordinance is it?
It's ordinance 6, and the one on County Line Road, the church, is ordinance 3. The rezone is 3.
Okay.
Ordinance 3.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I saw the word church, but I didn't. Okay. So, any comments or questions about this would be ordinance 6 for the masonry building.
I think that we should do the ordinance rather than let it pass 90 days, just so we'll have something for 30 years from now when someone's looking through Laserfish, trying to find an ordinance or trying to find something. I like the ordinance to reference the property, and I think it's important that we do that.
Do you have a comment, Chris?
Nope, I'm just ready.
Make a motion. Prove. Can we prove them both, Jewel?
Actually, since it's a rezoning, and it's an ordinance, I would do them individually.
Okay.
Okay, so this would be ordinance 6.
Motion to approve ordinance 6, 2020.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Stanley. Do we have a second?
Aye.
Oh,
Give it time.
Councilman Worthen beat you, so it's Councilman Stanley and Councilman Worthen, and then we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Stanley?
Aye.
Councilman Stanley votes aye. Councilman Worthen?
Aye.
Councilman Worthen votes aye. Councilman Cook?
Aye.
Councilman Cook votes aye. Councilwoman Hester?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye. Shane Williams votes aye. Motion passes. So then we'll move to the rezone of the County Line Road Church, which was ordinance 3. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve ordinance 3, 2020.
Councilman Stanley makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Aye. Give that to Jeff. Give it to Jeff.
You want to?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilman Worthen says to give it to you, Councilman Cook. So Councilman Cook seconds the motion. We'll do a roll call. All in favor. Dustin Stanley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Stanley votes aye. Councilman Worthen?
Aye.
Councilman Worthen votes aye. Councilman Cook?
Aye.
Councilman Cook votes aye. Councilwoman Hester?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye. Shane Williams votes aye. The motion passes. Do we have the ordinance here, or does he need to prepare it? Okay. Next item under new business is introduction of innovative performance technologies. Are you taking care of it?
I guess I am.
It says Mike Bellinger on the schedule, but on the agenda, but Dustin Stanley's gonna deal with this.
Before you as an SB1, this is just a introduction or declaratory for innovative performance technologies. They are, this is for a 3-year abatement on, looks like, personal property. They have invested in a $124,000 press brake. It will add 1 existing job. The only caveat is they are requesting a waiver of non-compliance because they actually acquired and installed the equipment prior to any approval. This document was actually just received today, so I just wanted to kind of pinch hit for Mike Dellinger if I may. Probably not as well.
I'm sorry, Councilman Stanley, I think you indicated that the equipment has been installed already, and they're asking for a finding of non-compliance and allowance of non-compliance.
Yes, it says is requesting a waiver of non-compliance because they had to acquire and install the equipment prior to this being brought.
Okay. I will have to do a little research on that. I apologize. I'm trying to pull it up right now in a hurry. But I think the statute of still personal property abatements, tax abatements, indicates that the property needs to be new to the state of Indiana and it has to be applied for. I think it just shall be applied for prior to installation anywhere in the state of Indiana. So it actually could be used equipment that's being brought into the state for the first time. I will try to pull that up as quick as possible to give you an opinion as to whether or not that waiver would be acceptable to the state.
Shane, you want to go around that? Just give him a chance. You want to go around it?
Hey, Chul, can we, while you look at that, can we move on with the agenda, if you don't mind?
Yes. Yeah.
We'll come back.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is promised, the warning tornado siren report after the last storm. I think the chief of police is gonna come up and talk about this.
Hey, Shane, this is Jim.
Yes.
Hey, I need to, but, I've been called into work, I'm gonna have to, meet the meeting this time, if you could reflect minutes, I appreciate it.
Okay, did you hear that? Jeff Cook has to leave to go to work. He's an Indianapolis Police Department member, so can you reflect that in the minutes? We still have a quorum.
Fine,
so-
stay there.
Huh?
You're fine, stay there.
No,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
go back to my hiding hole.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, I guess I'm ready.
Okay.
I spoke to Shane several times in the last couple of weeks since the 8th on the tornado sirens. And I know there were some concerns. What I'm gonna do first is just go right down the timeline. And with this timeline submitted to you guys is all the backing information where I've got all that information. On Wednesday, March 8th, 2020, an EF1 tornado struck the town of Mooresville, which resulted in 0 injuries and 0 fatalities. The tornado struck at 8:43 p.m. and traveled 0.97 miles. It was moving at approximately 55 miles per hour with a sustained winds of roughly 100 miles per hour. The National Weather Service advised the Mooresville Police Department at 8:46 p.m. Timeline here is from the National Weather Service. These are switch message that dispatch receives. The first one came at 7:25 p.m. The National Weather Service issued a tornado watch for Morgan County, including Mooresville. At 8:18 p.m., the National Weather Service issued a severe thunderstorm warning for southwestern Morgan County. At 8:27 p.m., National Weather Service issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Morgan County, including Mooresville. At 8:46 p.m., National Weather Service issued a tornado warning for Morgan County, including Mooresville. At 8:47 p.m., National Weather Service issued a tornado warning for southern Morgan County. At 8:51 p.m., National Weather Service canceled some of the severe thunderstorm warning. However, it stated that the one issued for Morgan County is still in effect. At 8:59 p.m., National Weather Service issued a severe thunderstorm warning for south central Morgan County. The National Weather Service also has a overview that I was able to obtain for the outbreak which occurred on April 8th. The date was 4/8 of 2020, and they stated at 8:43 p.m. is when an EF1 tornado struck the town of Mooresville. And most of the information is what I've already reiterated. It was an EF1. The peak winds were 100 miles per hour. It was estimated. It traveled 0.97 miles. It was 35 yards wide. 0 injuries, 0 deaths. Speed was approximated to 55 miles per hour. And that was the travel speed. Next, these are the 911 calls received and the times that they received. Between 8:43 p.m. and 9 p.m., 19 911 calls were received. Between 8:43 p.m. and 11:59 p.m., which I basically in midnight equal, it was 41 911 calls. Non-911 calls, these were inbound, or these were received by the dispatch center at between 8:44 and 9 p.m. equal 33. 15 of those calls lasted less than 1 minute, and 18 of those calls were greater than 1 minute. Average time was 1.79 minutes, with the longest being 4.5 minutes. Calls inbound received between 8:44 p.m. and 11:59 p.m. were 95 calls. Outbound calls, so these are calls where dispatch had to call outside or call someone else. Between 8:43 p.m. and 9 p.m. there were 4. Between 8:43 p.m. and 23:59 p.m. equals 36. Now, this is not including what went on after midnight. You do have that in your stack. Well, you don't have that because some of the stuff that you didn't get, it has information on it for privacy reasons. It's got telephones, addresses, and stuff like that. But if you want those, I can get those and redact that information. But it is available. The radio traffic, the Lieutenant Forbes hit in about 8:43:49, and then we have a nice recording system which records all of our phone calls and radio traffic at the dispatch center. That saying that it hit. No specificity to that, but that it was hidden. And then the weather alert channel, which is also recorded at our dispatch center, went off at 8:47:41 p.m. What I'd like to note here, just to let you know, that there is going to probably be anywhere from a 30 to 40 second variation due to all of the computers in dispatch are not synced.
They were trying to get that added into whenever they were building the building, but that was a pretty expensive thing, so they didn't opt in doing that. So there is a variation of about 30 to 40 seconds in the different time sinks for the different computers, including the IDAX terminal, the Windows, and Stone. There were two dispatchers working that night during the event, Elizabeth Whittle and Jessica Boland. On 4/13/2020, the warning siren activation hardware, computer, and software were inspected by federal signal technician. They were found to be completely operational. Remote electronic testing of the warning sirens also indicated full functionality. A physical inspection of the sirens and preventive maintenance has been scheduled for the week of May 4th, 2020. Per Council President Shane Williams, the upgraded software for the federal signal system has been ordered. The cost is $2,021.50. Other than what I presented to you here again, I give you the switch messages. There's also, if you look here, there is a copy of our dispatch SOP for you to review. And now I'll take questions from council members.
Forbes was in the downtown when it hit.
He was downtown at the intersection when it hit. He said his car actually moved a little bit.
I was at Marco's Pizza, and I was wondering where the alarm was. You know, the tornado siren.
Okay.
And it looks to me like the tornado was on the ground, or I've heard it was roof high. Is that true?
I think that is a bunch of opinions. That is my opinions. I don't think I think it went across the rooftops, but I don't have any expertise in tornadoes or weather or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just from what I'm looking at.
It's Chief Robinson, Mooresville Fire Department. The National Weather Service staff said it sort of bounced across the travel area, for lack of a better word. So it hit, kind of pulled up and bounced through, and that's why we had significant damage some places and sort of lighter damage in other places, if you will. So that's.
Was it on the ground or bouncing for about a minute?
Yeah, well, the timeline is a little strange, but yeah, I can tell you exactly. I have the report.
It went about a mile and it was moving 55 miles an hour.
So about a minute would be.
About a minute.
Yeah.
Right.
That would be approximate math there.
So it looks to me like as far as the tornado warning itself goes, it came in from the Weather Service minutes after
approximately 3 minutes after.
After the tornado was reported by the Weather Service in the area.
Actually,
Please state who you are.
Steve Elser, Mooresville Police Department. I sent Kevin the information, and there's a timeline I received from Andrew White at the National Weather Service, who was the one that came out and did the on-site. And that timeline indicated at the time that roughly the time Forbes hit in on the radio, there was already photos of the roof collapse posted on Twitter, which was on their timeline roughly 4 minutes before the tornado warning was in fact issued by the National Weather Service. Now the NCIDEX, NCIC messages, it gives counties locations, etc. The tornado warning itself has a line on it, EAS activation requested. Okay, when that comes across, that is when the sirens are designed and set to go off. Now, that's also the time that we heard it on the weather radio. So some of the more current systems, the sirens activate automatically based on the tone and subaudible information the Weather Service in Indianapolis puts out.
They don't require a person to hit a button.
No, and that's included in the software that we just talked about.
But we don't have that.
We don't have it now. Currently, it's a manual activation system. All of the systems that I'm aware of in Morgan County and immediately joining us are manual activations. In other words, they have to be set off by somebody. The SOP is when the activation is requested EAS, which is the same, which is when your cell phones go off, if you have the weather notification on, is when they're activated. The incident here indicates that the event occurred before activation was requested. And the routine number of warnings, watches, overlays had not yet occurred. And this was an extremely fast-moving, very narrow frontal system that was running 55 to 60 miles an hour. It was abnormal from the fact that it was coming from the northwest going to southeast. 75% of tornadoes in Indiana run from southwest to northeast or from west to east. So it was actually going the opposite direction of most everything we had. And I think that it was moving so fast, it was so tight and narrow that whatever rotation they saw came after they saw physical damage posted, and they had actual spotter reports before radar indication.
I think one of the spotters was from Man Road, I believe.
Yeah, in Man Road, there was a report on some damage there, there was some report on damage in Plainfield. But I think Kevin sent everybody that email with the link. It's on the University of Iowa website. You can see the levels of notification on it. So our dispatchers here were swamped from the time Lieutenant Forbes hit in and said it hit until the time we got the EAS notification. When we got the EAS notification, setting off those sirens and at that point would have been counterproductive and created more of a swamp at the end of incoming phone calls at the dispatch center. The threat to us had already moved outside of our immediate area and had moved over into the other part, or the eastern part out by Waverly and Morgan County, and actually into Johnson. So if you look at the track boxes, you can see how quickly that moved across based on the fact that it was such a fast moving front.
Can you explain the part about, a lot of people have asked me, well, I never hear them test them anymore, you know? But they are being, talk about
yes.
how they're being tested. And
Our system, I think Tommy, you know this, our system uses what's called an electronic testing system. It polls the site, checks the site, has a series of data that returns, and then does a rotation without the siren actually going off. That information and data is sent back to the box that we have, and if there's an error or problem at the time that it occurred, an audible alarm occurs in the comm center. They're generally tested 11 o'clock on the last Friday of the month. So that's why people won't hear them going off again. A lot of counties set them off every Friday at a certain time. Some counties don't. Statistically, people have found that if you set them off all the time on a Friday, people become immune to the actual devices going off, and it becomes counterproductive. So that's pretty much where we are.
in the report, you said that per me, you ordered this software. When did I authorize that?
Steve said you guys discussed
We
it.
were discussing that, and we talked about the software.
I don't remember. You said that you were going to order it. I'm assuming you had the funds appropriated for that.
We do.
We do, yes.
So I don't know that you needed my permission to do that, did you?
No, I think we discussed it the day that Kevin was there. He left, and we continued the discussion about it, and I had made the quote to you on that.
Yeah, you mentioned that you were going to do it.
Okay.
It was over $1,500, so
Yeah.
it's good that
And
you,
what
it's good
did
that you
Jeff tell
approved
you?
it.
He said it was okay.
It's good that you approved it.
It was also run by Councilor Cook on it.
Your liaison?
Yeah, our liaison before we even spoke.
Oh, okay. That's because I didn't remember really authorizing.
They put in, it's in black and white. It can't be
I know.
wrong.
Were you going to call me out on that? You should have.
No.
No.
No, because that's the way it was supposed to work. You were the co-liaison. That's the way it's supposed to work. I was kind of impressed, but if you tell me that they didn't do it,
Well, I wanted to make sure
I don't, nothing doing
I don't remember
I
saying,
told you
you
what
have
we
my
wanted.
approval, I remember you saying, we're going to do this, and I figured.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
That was a miscommunication.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify
Maybe
that
the
for the
verbiage
record.
was incorrect.
Anybody else have
Somebody
any?
saying I'm a king or a dictator.
Far from it.
Okay.
Tater. Here's what I want to say. First off, your communication officers both need to be commended. They kept their heads. They did what they were supposed to do. Now, like our audience member, poor communication sometimes.
Yes.
Somewhere along the line, someone didn't follow the standard operating procedures. And that's the one thing that I was worried about. Yes, if we go to the standard operating procedures, if there is a,
Try to read.
while under a tornado watch, the National Weather Service issues a severe thunderstorm warning for an area. So at 8:27, those could have went off, and they would have been 15 minutes prior.
Okay.
But you know what? It didn't happen. 0 injuries, 0 deaths. I think that's a good policy. I think that is fantastic to do that. And I think that's just part of training. It was maybe they didn't know the standard operating procedures. I'm not saying that, hey, they did something wrong. I still think they did an outstanding job because I know how hectic it was in the 30 minutes. You and I had quick conversations, and I think both of our heart rates were up pretty high at that point in time. So they should be commended, but I would like for that to be followed because I think that does give us a little bit of a advantage, and it gives us about 15 minutes on this one here. Now, the bad part about it is you set off a tornado warning. A certain number of people are going to walk out of Marco's Pizza and look for the tornado. So I don't know if it's
wouldn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
You pointed at me.
But
I think we had a severe thunderstorm warning, but
And-
there was
Well, they're talking about
enough,
the tornado watch that came out at 7:25 p.m.
The tornado watch was earlier.
So-
it's-
much earlier.
It was way earlier.
But it was still in effect,
Yeah, exactly.
and that's what the standard operating procedures say.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that it
We were
could, they
an hour
could have.
apart on those.
You were an hour apart, but you were 15 minutes ahead of the game if we had followed the standard operating procedures. And you know what? We do better next time. Thank God we've not had to set those off. I don't remember the last time that they actually went off, that we actually had to set them off.
Testing, no.
So, you know what? If it was, hey, we're not familiar with it, or we didn't, or it could have been that it was just that chaotic. So, like I said, I think they did an outstanding job. I compliment them, but I also, like the lesson we learned tonight, we're going to communicate better, and I think that if we follow that there, I think it would be fantastic. And I don't think the public would hold it against you if you set them off and there wasn't a tornado.
Gotcha.
But following that, and you sent that out, and I do appreciate that. I've heard the stories. There's no cover up. There's nothing happened here other than one small item got overlooked. We could have done better, but we're going to do better next time. That's all there is. And I'll defend our department, and I'll defend our dispatchers all night long if they need me to. So thank you, and thank them for us.
They did an outstanding job with that.
Yeah, and I appreciate this too, because I think the public needs to be reassured on this. And it's an important issue. This also says that the town board president or their designee has caused to issue a directive to activate the severe weather warning sirens. So it looks to me like I'm authorized based on this to order
Yes.
a siren. You're having a man come up to inspect, when was it, in May?
The week of the 4th of May, that will be weather dependent. He's not gonna climb up on a pole if it's lightning out.
Okay.
We don't wanna send JD over there.
This is my opinion, and I still like their opinion on this, and maybe Jessica Hester, if she has an opinion. What if I ordered a test that is an audible test to reassure the public that the sirens do work, but that is scheduled, advertised?
Yeah, it's scheduled and advertised. Definitely.
Every day at 5 o'clock? Used to.
I think doing that after we get all of the new software in, we get everything set up and running, we can tie that all into one with the equipment up, everything else, and do that in that order.
Okay.
I think that would be a terrific idea. I think, it probably needs to do it. We may want to review whether we want to do it one test a month audibly and the rest quiet, so that we, you only hear it once every 31 days, whatever. So,
Which I think you said that's what Morgan County does.
Our system reports back, though. A lot of places don't. Our system does report back. They know whether that's turning. They know whether the turbine, if it's a growl test, they know whether the turbine's turning. They know everything about that
battery's
system.
low, battery needs to be replaced, any of that detail.
And as far as the testing goes, I lived in Marion County, and it was 11 o'clock every Friday, it was right. It kind of is a little overkill in that respect. I mean, you can compromise and do it however we want, right? You can do it every other week, you can do it on the 15th, or whatever the week the 15th falls on.
Every day at 5?
Every day at 5, if you like. That's totally up to what we decide as our department. But that can be fluid, you know what I mean? We don't have to, I don't think that needs to be set in stone. Makes things a little easier.
I think the part about the town board president in there is along with, we could have set it off when Forbes said, I just got hit, or whatever his traffic was.
Even though he technically is not a
No, but yeah.
storm spotter, but
If it's, he knows if his car turns 90 degrees.
Chief, I think getting police and fire.
are they
Yeah.
qualified?
If they say,
They're
hey,
official.
whatever, set it up, and I think that's where it is. And that's almost word for word out of the National Weather Service.
And we are compiling some stuff so we can do some education as far as, because everybody I've heard, I got it on my phone. A lot of people got the alert to seek shelter immediate, stuff like that. And all of the relatively new phones have that ability.
It's
where
mandatory.
You get all alerts, and it's mandatory. But also,
During that time, we got it after I already moved everyone downstairs.
Yeah.
So after the feeling that the tornado was hitting.
Well, which notification service do you use, which weather service?
I don't know, the one that came around.
But we could have done better. We didn't. We're going to do better next time. That's all it is. It's that simple. It's that simple. We're not going to make excuses. It just happened. 0 injuries, 0 deaths. That's what we got to look at. But I mean, I knew that our operating procedures did have guidelines in there with warnings and watches. And the bad part about it is now we're giving the dispatchers something else they have to do. But I mean, we are doing it.
I like
So-
the idea of the automatic, but the new software allows it to be set up
Right,
automatically.
and what that does is.
Oh, I know what those are.
Okay.
Because they got 100 and some calls in a short period of time.
well, the calls kept coming after midnight too, because we were out there till probably 1:30, 2 o'clock, at least getting everything secured.
That notification that you're talking about is a real time, it's not on the delay.
Yes, what I'm
The
talking
one
with
that's national
your
weather
cell
service.
phones,
Yeah.
you have the presidential alert on your cell phone, which you can't turn off. Then you can turn on weather alerts and Amber alerts, and et cetera, on your cell phone. It's required by federal law to be there. If you turn those on, they will go off when the weather service hits the EAS activation on the teletype. Okay, when they do that, you'll get your alert. So that's how that works. Keep it. There you go, I'm sorry.
Did you have any other questions about the tornado itself? I know, I think JD or Dave told me that you guys wanted some information about how soon we're going to open up the downtown.
Yeah, I'd like an update on that.
I can only tell you that me and Dave are doing whatever Chief Robinson tells us to do, and we've got our plan in place. He just has to give us the okay, and we've got it ready to move whenever he's ready to open it up.
Okay, so with 1/3 east, the most heavily damaged, well, that's up for discussion, which one's the most heavily damaged, I guess. So Ralph and Davis in the lawyer's office, and then catty corner to 1 and 3 east. What we are going to do is block those sidewalks and go around to, on the southeast corner, over to 5 east, and then block the parking spots as well. So that gives us about 25 feet of leeway for collapse zone issues. Essentially, the 2 walls that could potentially fall down on the southeast corner. The northwest corner is in pretty good shape. They've cleaned up the parapet walls, so we're going to do the same thing over there. We're going to cordon it off from Ralph Navis all the way over to real close to Allen Brothers Barber Shop. That way, once we get some information from the insurance company, Mr. Allen's insurance company, on 1 and 3 East, then we can determine when we can open the town up. The target date is obviously a week from Friday, at the same time as the governor. But hopefully we'll be able to move forward a little faster than that. I'm actively talking to the insurance companies now to make sure we have a pretty good time frame of what they're doing, whether they're going to knock the building down, whether they're going to repair it, whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter to me which direction they go. We just need to know when they're doing it.
Is it going to be hard fenced around it?
No, we're going to put barricades up and fences, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Dave?
Correct.
Are we providing that, or is the
Yes,
insurance
it's down.
companies?
Well, for now, we're going to provide it.
Okay.
Now, once they get into the construction and or demolition of that, then I would imagine they'll have to provide that. Because if they do demolition and or construction, depending on which direction they go, we're going to have to shut town down again for at least a little while that happens. Because if they have to demo it, we're going to have to put boards down on the street because I don't want to damage the asphalt. Because now we're talking big expenses, shutting down even longer, other issues. But until we hear from the insurance company to find out what they're doing, we're sort of in a holding pattern. Hopefully I'll know something here in the next day or two, or Mr. Bennett will, and then we can proceed.
I've had a question from 5 East. If the governor opens up on May 1st, will they be able to participate or have events in theirs if their construction's done?
5 East?
Yes.
I would say that's up to the structural engineer. So if their building is deemed, because right now it's not, it's green, I believe, right? Yellow. It's yellow tag, so I'm not sure if they're able to do anything yet.
It's because of the windows.
It's because of the windows on it, because that's not, but because it's in such close proximity to 1 and 3, I mean, it's attached, for God's sake. So we need to make sure, I don't know where they would put everybody to park, honestly. She has another alternate site.
Yeah, but that was the concern, was they had made a request, and we don't know, and maybe that's a question for Jewel, when are we going to start with our plan and BZA? Because that is a question for her to be able to operate out of her other facility.
Right, and that's something I should be able to determine as a fire marshal, right?
These were agreements on zoning.
Yeah.
Okay, because she could only utilize it so many times a year.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Dave, did you think you might have some authority as the administrator of the UDO to allow her to use the other location?
I spoke with Deborah who's there today. She's a bit of a...
I'm sorry. Can you wipe that microphone off for me?
I certainly can.
Well, we know which ones are working.
Yeah, I spoke with Deborah who's there today. She helped write our UDO. She did feel like I had the authority as the UDO administrator to allow 5 East to move a few events out to the alternate site that she was requesting.
So, Jewel, did you hear that?
I did. My concern is, so when I spoken with you earlier, Shane, the question was, how is that location currently zoned? So if it is zoned to allow the usage that she's wanting to, then I would concur with that. But if it is not zoned to accommodate the usage that she wanted to move out there, then I think that the BZA would be the only body that would be able to allow.
It's really, Jewel, it's really a lesser use because she's used to doing weddings of 350 people, and we're talking about groups of 50 or 10 or whatever the governor would release for a period of about maybe 2 weeks or 4 weeks until her windows come in. That's if the governor releases some of these stay-at-home orders. It may not even happen. but she's trying to keep, she told me today she was gonna lose quite a bit of business in an already bad situation.
Well, I think everyone's going to lose the businesses if they open it back up. Where are we going to put them? And Jewel, it is properly zoned, but it was zoned with limitations on numbers of events. That was to satisfy surrounding property remonstration.
Yeah, and so I think I spoke with the council president a little bit about this. I think if it is for the same usage that property has been zoned for, but that zoning was applied with a specific maximum number of times that place can be utilized, that if she would hold an event in that location, if it would count towards that maximum number that is utilized, then it would be in compliance with the limitations and the restrictions that were placed upon that zone.
Well, I think what she's afraid of is she'll run out of uses come the end of the year.
Right, and so the issue that we would face is we are looking, I mean, what we have to be careful with is that we do not make decisions which go beyond the extension of this emergency. So just because we're looking at emergency now and the BZA is not able to meet at this point, does not mean that they're not going to be able to meet later in the year. And so while if we allow usage under this provision where it counts towards those numbers, the minute that the BZA starts having their needs, whatever that might be, she can bring that petition in front of the BZA to allow those to not count towards, so there would be another variance to that zoning. And so I want to caution the council not to consider this as, if we do it that way, then we're saying she only has that throughout the end of the year. That technically if nothing else occurs, then yes, that's true. But I believe that the opportunity would present itself for her to petition the BZA to make a determination that that usage does not count towards that number.
It also part of the restrictions also put limits on security, that she has to provide security. Yeah, but if the events are smaller, the letter that she sent in questioned whether she had to comply with those same issues. I think the question was the hardship that it would create, financial hardship on an event with 300 people versus an event with 10 people, and having a sheriff's deputy or off-duty police officer out there to direct traffic for 10 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is something that I can understand a little bit more. If it's not traffic that would require and does not create a kind of blockage along a thoroughfare, then I can understand why you wouldn't need to have somebody to direct traffic to allow people to get in and out and things of that nature.
Can the council make a motion to let her do this through the month of May or something, or are you saying we can't even do that?
Well, I think that they would have the authority to say, yes, you can utilize this location because it's zoned properly, but as of right now, they would count towards those restrictions, and as soon as BZA opens, you need to go and try and get that.
Okay, so she would just have to keep track of the number of meetings or number of events she has, and then ask for a special exception. A one-time variance, is that just a one-time variance? A temporary variance?
I think it would be a determination that those do not count towards.
Okay.
Yes, it would be a variance of this. It is a variance of the zoning that's currently in place.
JD, but you think that by May 1st, you should have
A better idea.
But can we say to them that you think by May 1st, they'll be able to get to their building, should they have all their repairs done to where she can have events in there?
Certainly, as long as the structural engineer is okay with that, and Mr. Bennett's okay with, Tim Bennett's okay with that, then I'm going to be okay with that.
Because I don't know that she really wants to have them out there. She just wants to have a backup.
Well, her issue, she told me today that her issue is the windows are such a size it's gonna take 4 to 6 weeks to get them.
Yeah, so this is.
Because they're a custom size, they have to build
In
them.
the middle of May anyway, before she can, and so
So you-
hopefully we'll certainly know what's going on by then.
You're probably not looking more than a couple of weeks of May really, but
So, she needs to have options for sure.
I would just say the month of May and that'd probably cover her. And she may not even be able to do it.
Well, I don't know that we have to take any action. He's saying Dave has the authority.
Oh, Jewel, Dave has that authority? We don't need a council vote?
Correct, because I don't think the council can, provide variances of that nature when it's zoning. That's also going to be the jurisdiction.
Okay. Well, that got roped in under everything going on with the tornado. So next item, we're gonna, appointment to the Economic Development Commission. And Joel, would you mind explaining what this is real quickly?
Okay, so what the Economic Development Commission is tied to development of essentially the next step. You have to have a body that is going to receive certain development projects. And so when you create the Economic Development Commission, it is a little bit different than that of a redevelopment commission. So when you talk about a redevelopment commission, it is a body that has to be made up of individuals who reside within the boundaries of the municipality it's serving. The Mooresville Economic Development Commission does not have that same restriction, so you can choose somebody who is from outside of that, of your geographic area, so provided that they are the council believes that they are the proper people for the job of consulting as it applies to the Economic Development Commission.
Okay, so we have received the applications from both of these individuals. Any council comments? Do I have a motion?
Well, I didn't realize, I mean, how was this put out here? Because I know that we were asked to form this last year to fill these positions, and we kind of kicked the can down the road because we figured this council would want to do that, the two new members. So I didn't realize that we had started taking, we'd started even asking, but I think one of the applications, it said, I know you're looking for. I think Matt's, so was it somewhere that you were looking for members of this?
It was in our, it was one of the calendar items that Adam Sturwald put together.
Okay.
And it said that they needed to be appointed by this meeting.
Okay.
Correct, Jewel?
Yeah, so Adam is really pushing to make sure that we have two appointees to this.
We already have a county appointee, right?
Yeah, the county appointee is Dean Mayfield, right?
Yes.
Okay, and this is, one of these is council and one of these is presidential?
Yeah.
I really want our first member to be on there.
What's that?
I really want our first member on there.
Yeah.
The first one that was a member of the 1972. You know who that was, don't you?
Who was? Grandpa?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow,
Well,
that's neat.
I would make a motion as a council member to appoint Matthew Sainer to the EDC, Economic Development Commission.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilman Warden. Do we have a second?
Stanley will second, and this is just to clarify, this is for the Mooresville. The county does have an EDC, which I and Shane serve on. This is completely separate.
Yeah.
This is just for the town of Mooresville.
Commission versus corporation.
Commission versus corporation, but everybody's calling it EDC, so just wanted to clarify.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Would you mind handing that to me? I don't know if Jessica can hear me. Jessica, have you been able to hear with the phone over there?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. So all in favor of Matthew Sainer to the Economic Development Commission, Dustin Stanley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dustin Stanley votes aye. Councilman Worthing, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Worthing votes aye. Councilman Cook is absent for this part of the meeting. Councilwoman Hester, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye. Shane Williams votes aye. So Matthew Sanger's been appointed. And then with John Earhart, I will nominate and appoint him as the presidential appointment to the Mooresville Economic Development Commission.
You sure?
I'm sure.
He doesn't like our sewer rates.
He did, yeah. Legal, do you have anything else?
Yeah, go back to the introduction to innovation.
Oh, yep, that's correct.
Information from technology that is one. I was able to look through here, so I knew that there was something weird about this. In order to waive, pass a resolution waiving non-compliance with the location of equipment, you have to have a public hearing.
Okay.
And so we would have to go through the public notification period and stuff like that, and then we'd be considering that waiver.
So can we do you consider that essential, or is that something we can put off? I know that the question was a sewer essential, and I think all of us felt like it was because of the timeline, but is this, if we're already waiving?
Yeah, this one's going to be a little bit harder. You know, Councilman Ward and I agree with you. This is a little bit harder to justify as essential operations. And the reason why I say that is the request in and of itself is to waive essentially a missed timeline. They should have gone for this application and recognition prior to the installation of the equipment. And so that if it's put out a little bit further, there's nothing really that's going to be harmed. They're asking for you to waive that non-compliance to begin with. So I don't know that this would qualify under the same analysis for an essential operation of the town.
Would it be all right to place a motion that we recognize and acknowledge their request, and we'll address it at a time once the limits have been placed or relieved?
For the public meetings and things of that nature, I think that's fine. I don't know that you need to take any action. I think we can
Okay.
just have to place this on there. And, you know, I think Dustin, since he was the delegate for this, can inform the interested party that, yeah, we'll address this, but we're going to have to address this once the restrictions have been lifted.
Just want to point out, because I didn't before, the rezones we did tonight had started prior to COVID, so we left them in the process. I should have probably said that then. So.
Correct, and they would have been, if the council took no action, they would have been approved.
Yeah.
And created as an ordinance as well. So this is just formalizing that action, so.
Okay. I think our department heads have really all spoken. Legal, do you have any other business?
I think I've spoken enough today. Thank you.
Okay. Public comments? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion for the approval of claims.
Motion to approve the payment of claims of $398,893.77.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Stanley will second.
Stanley seconds. So all in favor?
Aye.
Dustin Stanley.
Still a yay.
Dustin Stanley votes aye. Councilman Worthing.
No. Yeah, aye.
Councilman Worthing votes aye. Councilwoman Hester.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye, and Shane Williams votes aye. Town council comments. Anybody have any comments?
Motion to adjourn.
The next meeting date will be Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Stanley makes the motion to adjourn.
Dustin Stanley makes a motion. Do I have a second? All in favor? Dustin Stanley? Oh. Councilman more than...
No.
Okay. He made-
Motion, Jessica.